waiting to be resurrected as like Jesus. So, this is pretty scary if you take it seriously. And also you're doing this in front of 30, 40, 50 men, you don't know who they are. So you're swearing bonds of loyalty to someone you've absolutely no idea who they are, what they are loyal to, and what these oaths of obligation are going to mean. Now, you or I might have a mental resilience against this kind of thing, but you're dealing largely with uneducated men who don't have a lot, maybe, of social support. And
so if you joined the CID, would you then automatically be drawn into being a Mason?
Well, I think at some point, someone might come up to you, and they always say you've got to be asked, but you've got to ask. But who do you ask? So that person has to disclose that you are would you like to come along? And of course there's also the thing called a ladies' night where you can introduce friends, bring your wife before you're a member, you see. So there are these
social gatherings.
Yeah, there's a sort of foot bath before you go into full immersion. So,
and so
I don't think it can be discounted. It is not a paranoid conspiracy to think that. And I always say that Freemasonry is itself a paranoid conspiracy theory, because it's always based on the idea that the founder, the man who built the Temple of Solomon, was killed for not disclosing its secrets. So they are the conspiracy theory par excellence. When they stand up and say, everyone's against this, it's nonsense, there is no such thing, we're perfectly benign people. But they are the people who initiated this complete nonsense. The Temple of Solomon was built out of wood, it wasn't built out of stone. So if you believe it at all, if you believe anything in the Bible, it was built out of wood. So there was no stonemason. So it's all absolute fucking crap. It's a complete nonsense, but the notion is that it's them against us. We must stand alone against the people who wish to disclose our secrets. And then, it's not just the secrets of the construction of the Temple of Solomon, it's the secrets of Freemasonry. And then not only in the basic craft lodges, the first degree, in all the other degrees. It's a full-time, you can be going to lodges about 4 or 5 times a week. Now, after what Stephen and I wrote, and other people, the membership fell by half. Mainly because they realised half their members are dead anyway. But, so really the bookkeeping was terrible. So, it's not to be underestimated.
So, I'm not to underestimate it in terms of, I can see in terms of, making, another sticky element to keep corruption together. So therefore, the next step of that is, I've read quite a lot, and in your programme, seeing things about that in the same lodges was not cops and criminals.
Yes.
And was that a direct place where business could be done?
No, I don't think so. I don't think people did business in the lodge. But remember, I can pick out individual phrases, but one of the most telling in all the rituals is, we are a column of mutual defence and support. So if you get, a lot of lodges still meet at Freemasons Hall, but, the one lodge that stood out in this particular case, though there were others, as an aside, Moody was in a lodge with pornographers, But I remember, because I knew most of the 7 people in it, there was this lodge over in Southgate where the master was, I've got the initiation thing. The master was Lenny Gibson, who was one of those robbers that you're talking about. Galumphing oaf he was. And
the robber from one of the 3 robberies.
He was one of the... Lenny Gibson was on one of the... No, I don't think he was one of the city robberies. But I think he was one... Was it the one they did out on the South End Road? I can't remember. But anyway, Lenny was the master of the lodge when, lo and behold, who's being initiated? But a police officer. Now, I found out later that Lenny didn't actually supervise that particular initiation. But there you have it, in front of you, absolutely, on a piece of paper. God knows if I can find it. But it's certainly referred to in my book on the Freemasons. So how do you explain that? What on earth is going on? It's quite clear this is not a society based on morals. They would say, well, if he did a robbery, we didn't know about it. And maybe 5 years later they'd be expelled. It took about 15 years to expel Moody. So, it's inexplicable, really, isn't it? You think, this is all their highfalutin principles. You can have a situation like that. Now, there are some lodges which are entirely composed of police officers. Whether they're still, I'm going back 10, 15 years, because these people are boring as shit. I try not to think about them, the mental, anyway, so look, right? So, whether it's the first bond or the fifth bond or whatever, you've got to think that all these loyalties are intertwined, and it's terribly difficult to get out of them. Very difficult.
And they truly believe that the loyalty to Freemasonry overrides everything else.
Well, I'm not sure, bearing in mind what kind of people they were, they truly believe in anything, but it would be another mechanism of social control, wouldn't it? Right. Actual. It's another way of... what on earth is the purpose of Freemasonry unless it's to do just things like this? What good does it serve?
Yeah.
No doubt they would come out fighting and huffing and puffing, but it's all bollocks, and I'm happy to go on Newsnight, as I have on several occasions, to take the piss out of them and show their handshakes and everything else.
I'm happy to do the same. As I will. So I think, thank you for that. So I think it's probably best if I deal with Masonry in the pawn squads.
Yeah, but unfortunately you do have enough time, because you've got so much else to do in episode 2.
Yeah, but I think it's important.
By the way, I think Lenny Burt was a Freemason too. I don't know whether I got chapter and verse on that.
Right.
He, I think once when I raised it with him, he demurred, as they say. He was a nice bloke, but not up to it.
So, now you mentioned Countryman. I spoke to a City of London policeman yesterday, who was scared to talk to anybody. He was a young Bobby at the time. He said he was scared. He knew corruption was going on. He was offered money. He was scared to talk to anybody. Who did you talk to? Who turned to this? He just turned a blind eye. But when the big 3 robberies, and he had specific examples of when the robberies,
when the security guard was killed, can you believe it? Cuthbert was over all that. Fucking hell.
Was the security?
I knew Phil Cuthbert from another racket.
Oh, really? Because some say the security guard was killed because he was the insider.
I think he was killed because he got killed. I don't think it was.
Wasn't the insider?
I don't think so. I don't know. Maybe someone's come up with evidence. I don't think so.
But the guy yesterday talked about one of the robberies that Commander Moore called them on the day of the robbery. They were always Thursday, the robberies, which I quite find, because again, you forget the times were it was all cash. There was no cash. There was everyone got paid in the brown envelope, didn't they, at that time? That's hence why there was that much money flying around it. He was adamant that he was called by Moore off the streets. He was an armed response. He was in the CID. He was convinced that he was called off the streets to some lecture, or I can't remember what he said now, during one of the robberies, so that the police were just off, away. He was completely convinced that was the case, and it went all the way to Moore. What I'm not clear about yet is the 3 went down. The 3 robberies went down, and there was no convictions, evidence were missing, and then somehow informants, Supergrass played a